Hey you guys, how's it going? It's been a while since we've been out in the gardens. It's been extremely hot here. I mean, I haven't wanted to do anything. The weeds are getting a little out of control too, but I actually just cleaned up the front bed, so we're in a pretty good place there. But it's been really hot. We haven't had a lot of rain. My trees are stressed, shrubs are stressed. I've been trying to water what I can, but you know, there's a lot here. We do have an irrigation system, but trying to be conservative about it because again, we have not had a lot of rain, and if you know a good rain dance, please do one for New Jersey because we need one. Anyway, I want to show you some of the things that are blooming right now. Quite a few of my zinnias are doing amazing. Right now, I'm all about the Seniorita Zinnia. Oh, gorgeous. But I've also got some sunflowers, and we had a few surprises pop up in the garden that I think you're going to enjoy. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about what I'm planning to do here in fall. I've got some ideas in the front border where the stone wall is, as well as the koi pond in the front yard, and I think you're gonna love it. So let's take a peek. So one of the things that I'm thinking about for fall is this garden here. Now, I don't know if you remember, but months ago I had these beautiful tulips and daffodils that I planted when we first moved in here. They were actually originally purchased for my old house, but we wound up moving on the fly, and luckily we still had a warm day in December, put them in the ground, and they did really well. But I'm not sure if those peony tulips are gonna survive. I've heard from a few of you that sometimes they don't return, so I'm really planning on them not returning. So I'm gonna probably get a few more and tuck them in. But anyway, I wanna talk a little bit about this front bed because I added knockout roses along the front, and I bought like 11. And I kind of thought, I didn't really realize how much was here, and I didn't realize how big these hydrangeas were gonna get. So, because they were really small, the stems looked really small, and I just didn't think they were gonna be this big. So I figured I would move them, but I think I'm gonna leave them here. And the roses that I planted, I'm gonna move in fall and make groupings in between instead of having them in a row. I think that'll give me a lot of color, and it'll bloom through the season as long as I keep feeding them. So they're doing really well. They're happy there. There is a drip irrigation system in here, so they'll stay watered. And that is what I'm thinking of doing in addition to tucking in some perennials as well. This garden, I pretty much just threw in all the extra seedlings that I had. I started some Mexican sunflowers, some other types of sunflowers, zinnias, and because again, I wasn't sure what types of critters were here since we're new living here. I just threw them in all different places in the gardens just to see what would take where. And I'm glad I did that because everything that I planted in the pool garden, all the sunflowers, Mexican sunflowers, and calendula did not make it. Bunny mowed them all down. So they're just completely gone. But they did survive here, and I'm happy to notice that these Mexican sunflowers made it. I am so excited. I started them from seed, and I was really disappointed that the bunny ate them all in the other garden. So, but they did survive here. Got some sunflowers. I'll have to look at the variety. I'm not sure what they are offhand. Got another set over there. I actually planted those sunflowers along the driveway, and it was a beautiful display. I'll have to pop a little picture-in-picture on here so you can see just how many there were. I planted them all around the front porch of the house, but the bunny ate all but 2. But I was able to squeeze a few out in this garden as well as along the driveway. So up there on the wall is part of the small cottage garden near my front porch. Those are Seniorita Zinnias. They are doing amazing. They love the heat. They have not minded the extreme heat, and they are also on irrigation, so they have been well watered. I've been cutting and cutting and cutting, and I almost can't cut enough. They just keep flowering. Really fun, different shades of pink. I'll have to show you a few on the screen, but I love them. Super easy to grow, and they look amazing. So right now, all these black-eyed Susans are starting to bloom. It's so pretty. I don't know if you remember the ajuga. Is that how you say it? Ajuga. It's all planted in here with some vinca. It was purple in spring. I'll pop a picture on the screen so you can see how much this garden has changed. But it's really, these are really, really big. And as you can see, they kind of go over the walkway. Look, you can see how dry it's been here. Just like the grass is totally dead. And we have an irrigation system. It's just not, it was just so excessively hot here. It just couldn't retain the moisture. So hopefully we'll get some rain here soon, but let's not focus on the ground grass. So I've got a beautiful hibiscus here, looks great. And the surprise of the season is this celosia, because I did not plant it. So I think the former homeowner had a bunch of celosia plants in here and they must have reseeded. They've been wonderful. I've been cutting them and putting them in bouquets. So fun to grow, and they'll look great into fall. And I'm glad I didn't weed them out. Like when they first started growing, I was like, oh, weed. But I decided to leave it because I knew they had like amaranth in here, and I just wasn't sure, you know, what, if anything, would return. And I'm really glad that I left these because it was celosia. So my snapdragons not doing as well anymore. They really did not love the heat. Hopefully they'll bounce back. The larkspur is done, and the bunny got to a lot of them, so I don't even expect them to to come back. They're done. There's my dog going through the bed. But you know, salvia seems pretty happy up here, and the catmint looks really good. Next year, I definitely want to double the amount of super wave petunias that I put in this garden, because I kind of wish I had a full border. But you know what? At some point, you just have to stop spending money, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And next year, I'm noting in my garden journal that I want to plant more and have more of a solid border. So the yarrow is like almost done. Echinacea still looks really pretty. And look at this zinnia. So I mentioned it earlier, but look at it. Butterflies have been loving it, and it's just been really fun cutting these. So my original spot for zinnias was here. Bunny took them all out. I just grabbed whatever scat mats I had to kind of just try to save a few. This, ironically, is the only one that managed to remain. Look at this. I mean, I would put my little basket over it, my little egg crate over it to, you know, get them started, and then I would move the scat mats around. But it's just, I just think I'm gonna have to do perennials or something here. But front porch looks really good. These were the first sunflowers to bloom. They're pretty much done. My dog's in here. These are Seniorita Zinnias. Really, really pretty, different. I didn't grow them last year. I'm really enjoying them. Last year, my favorite was Bennery's Giant Wine. This year might be these. I mean, look at the different color variations. Isn't that so pretty? So this is what my sunflowers actually look like now. They're pretty much, you know, ending their lifespan. I'm gonna let the birds get to some of the seeds. I have so many. I am gonna preserve some of the heads, dry them out, and keep the seeds for myself. But I do wanna show you guys the hardy hibiscus border. Look at this. Do you remember when this border was all daffodils? Like they had probably thousands of daffodils in here. Well, look at it now. It's just got these gorgeous hibiscus flowers. They are loving the summer. I have not been loving the summer because it's been so hot, but they have not minded. They are blooming profusely. I did have some problems with Japanese beetles on them. They're still on them. I was battling them for a long time, dropping them in buckets of soapy water, but you know, it just got too hot to really spend time out here. So I just let the chips fall where they may. They still look pretty good though. And this year I'm gonna put some milky spore down on the grass over there, as well as in here, and hope that that helps cut down on the population of Japanese beetles in these gardens. Also probably going to start changing the grass over to tall fescue, because that's another way of organically dealing with Japanese beetles long term. I did also start some pumpkins from seed, and I have a few that survived bunny damage, so we'll see what kind of pumpkins we get. My dog's hanging out with me here today. But everything is really coming along really good given the heat. So, but I did want to show you how pretty this looks. I mean, look at that. Isn't that amazing? One of my favorite areas right now in the garden are these Bennery's giant wine zinnias and this beautiful hydrangea. It's hydrangea paniculata. I didn't plant it, but it was here before, and it did not look good when we moved here because, I don't know if you can hear the train, sorry. It was here when we moved here, and it looked like it had a buzz cut. Like it looked like, see how those side shoots are just going out? Like it just stopped there. So I did some corrective pruning in the winter, late winter, and this is what it looks like now. It looks great. So here's my Sedum Autumn Joy that I dug and divided. It's starting to turn. The flowers are beginning to bloom. I love, love, love Sedum Autumn Joy. I've talked about it a million times before on here. I'm going to link the video up in the little card above. You can check out that video and learn a little bit more about them. But look at that. I just love the color variation as it grows and changes. It goes from those chartreuse heads to these pretty light pink flowers. And then when they open and bloom, it gets this really deep pink hue. Really pretty, adds a lot of color, texture, and dimension to the garden. Like I mentioned before, I did plant a bunch of different zinnias over here because I had overflow, and I'm glad I did because the rabbit didn't get all of them. That is rabbit damage. The animal literally just comes here and just cuts the tops off and just leaves them. But at least my Bennery's giant wine stuck around. I'm really happy about that. All right, so we got to talk about the pond garden here because this is really going to get the biggest facelift in fall. So as you can see, there's a lot of mulch and not a lot of plants. It's kind of been a pain to weed, and I'm going to take a risk here, and I'm going to dig and divide a lot of the hostas that I have in the backyard. I have a lot of different varieties, and I'm just going to fill them in here. It's a shady spot, and it would really start to cover that ground cover. And hopefully I won't have a problem with deer here, but I won't know until I try. So if I wind up having an issue with deer, I'm gonna have to really spray them. But fingers crossed that I don't. I'm gonna divide a lot of the shadier plants that I have. I've got some Bernera, I've got ferns. So I'll probably do some ferns along the other side because they can kind of take a little bit of their own in terms of spacing. So, but this is what I'm going to be doing in the fall, and I think it's going to look amazing next year. I really can't wait. This plant needs to be divided. I mean, it's just too big, and it's just basically telling you it's like 10 different plants. So this plant's going to be getting a facelift, and this whole garden's going to look totally different next year. I cannot even wait. So this is going to be part of my fall planting projects. It's going to be a lot of work. Most of this year is going to be about digging, dividing, and replanting, but it's going to look really pretty. Since the fountain's not on yet, I figure I'll show you the pond. We started with 6 Shibunkin goldfish. We're down to 5. We don't know what happened to the 6th one. The 6th one actually disappeared shortly after we moved him in. So, blue heron could have got to it. Not sure, but we do have 5. There's our alligator, Fred, and then we've got Bob over there, the blue heron who we move around. So far, so good. We still have 5 fish. And just to kind of give you the perspective of the rest of the house, you can see the tree sculptures and, this garden that I'm calling, hey Bodhi, this garden that I'm calling the potager garden will also be evolving over the next few years. I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do there. There's no irrigation in there, which makes it difficult to water. So I got to kind of figure that out because especially after this summer where it was so hot and dry, it was kind of difficult to drag the hose down, especially when it was really hot out, and water it. So I might add irrigation in there somehow. But again, work in progress. It wasn't really that much of a garden before. It used to be a basketball court. You could see the posts there. We still have yet to drape lights as I want to do. You know, just been kind of doing a bunch of other stuff, but that is on the list of things to do. We are going to be doing a lot more container gardens in here. You know, it just can get so expensive buying stuff. So at some point you just kind of have to cut it off, right? So, you know, I said when and stopped, you know, buying stuff, and we'll wait until next year. But I'm planning things, and we want to do, like I've mentioned before, an outdoor kitchen there, and it's going to look great. It's going to be great. We've really enjoyed dining out at this space, and it's coming along. So this garden has been a little underwhelming, and I've really kind of decided that this is going to be more of just a feeder garden for the time being until it grows and fills in. So why has it been underwhelming? Well, number one, I've had a lot of problem with the rabbits in here. I've had a lot of problems with them. It's been coming in. It took all of my larkspur out. It took all of my liatris out, and I was using, I saw it do it, and I decided to use like a scat mat, and that did help while the blooms were still there. But you know what? I'm just gonna have to figure out how to garden around them. So this year, really more of a trial and error type year. You can see in the back there, zinnias, totally gone. So I don't know that I'm gonna grow zinnias in this garden unless I do one big patch and then put scat mats around it, because otherwise it's just not worth it. Look at that. I've got one. Anyway, so some of the plants worked out really well here, some not so much. This is on irrigation as well, and because we live in a pretty wet area, even though it's been very dry, some of the plants have not loved having more wet feet like the salvias. So because it's been so dry out, they're kind of returning and doing well. I'm actually going to dig them out of this garden and move them because they just don't love it here. But my containers like done. I gotta really, like, that excessive heat and drought just really took out so many plants. Even my other containers over there, not looking so good. And it's because it was just too hot out here to get out here and water. To water everything was just a lot. It was very hard to maintain the gardens this summer over the last few weeks. So, you know, it just is what it is. So I think I'm going to be making some changes in here. The snapdragons were really amazing this year. I've been cutting a lot of them. I do still have some zinnias going, which is great. I will be digging and dividing plants from other areas and putting them in this garden that I think will work now that I've seen, you know, what kind of works here and what doesn't. Next year, I really want to do bubblegum pink, super wave petunias all along the front. I really love the look of that light pink with the green fence. So I'm definitely going to be doing that next year. And I really want to play up pinks more in this garden than other colors. I don't know. I just really like it with that green fence. So I have the sunflowers in here right now, the Helianthus Sunbelievable, and I do like them. Thank goodness I got them because they've really helped to bring the color along. But I'm definitely going to be making some changes in here, and I definitely want to put in some more perennials that will be able to survive having a little bit wetter feet. Salvia, not loving it. And that's it, you guys. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Stacy from Bricks and Blooms. Enjoy a beautiful day.